Hey there, guys. All right, today we are back with extra history, extra credits. Warring States, Japan, Sengoku Jidai, the Siege of Inabayama Castle. Number 2. Before we dive in, make sure you go and check out the links in the description box. We dive in. But fucking words are hard. Sentences are hard. My brain's not working today. Before we dive in, make sure you go and check out the links in the description box below. I would love it if you joined the Discord. There we go. I said the words right this time. I'm going to stop embarrassing myself with my failure of the English language and let's just fucking dive in.
Welcome back to the Sengoku Jidai. Last time we left off with Oda Nobunaga ascendant after his surprising victory over the Imagawa, and young Tokugawa Ieyasu aligning himself and his clan with the victorious Oda. Now we enter a period of consolidation, as Nobunaga tries to strengthen his holdings and plan for his own march on Kyoto. And this is where the alliance with Tokugawa becomes so important. You see, to the east of Owari, the home province of the Oda, were 3 great clans, the Hojo, the Takeda, and the Uesugi, all of whom were arguably more powerful than the Oda. So why didn't one of these clans march west and steamroll everything between them and Kyoto? Well, because every time one of them would start to, one of the others would invade their territory. But now that Oda Nobunaga had the Tokugawa as allies, his eastern flank was secure. He could look west with impunity, or at least with a pretty big buffer between him and anyone who wanted to stop him. So this just leaves 2 clans to the west between Oda and Kyoto. These were the Azai and the Saito. But remember, right now, Oda Nobunaga isn't grasping for the prize of Kyoto. He's trying to consolidate the gains he's just made. So he marries off his sister to the Lord of the Azai, bringing them into the family, and hopefully ensuring their friendship. At the same time, he opens overtures with his father-in-law, the old daimyo of the Saito, Saito Dosan, a crafty ex-merchant who managed to raise himself up to ruling a whole province. Saito Dosan is on the verge of making a deal with the Oda when he's trapped and killed by his own son, Saito Yoshitatsu, who then rejects Oda Nobunaga's overtures of peace. Looks like it's back to war then. And now it's time to bring in our third major actor, Toyotomi Hideyoshi. Actually, wait, no. Before we go on, we gotta talk about names. Because, you see, at this point, Toyotomi Hideyoshi isn't actually being called Toyotomi Hideyoshi yet, and Tokugawa Ieyasu isn't called Tokugawa Ieyasu yet either. And basically everybody in this story changes their name like 13 times, because it seems to be a thing at the time to demand that everybody call you by increasingly cooler names the
Oda Nobunaga evolved into Nobunagatron.
stronger you got, which, yeah, it's kind of awesome, but it also gets extremely confusing, so we're basically just gonna ignore it and just call everybody by the names history remembers them as. The only
Fair enough. No, I like that. I like that approach. That's a very reasonable approach. It would get too crazy to try to remember all these different people. I'm glad they're just going with Tokugawa Ieyasu, Oda Nobunaga.
really important one to remember is that Tokugawa Ieyasu was called Matsudaira Motoyasu, and like 6 other things before that, before he became Tokugawa Ieyasu.
Homie, that samurai.
And that he was the leader of the Matsudaira clan from the last episode, which by the end of this episode he will rename to the Tokugawa. You see why I'm not bothering with all these name changes? Anyway, back to Toyotomi Hideyoshi. Here is a guy who really embodies the changing fortunes of the age. He began life as a peasant. When he was born, he wasn't even cool enough to get 2 names. But then he joined the Oda forces and became a sandal bearer. I kid you not, he was the guy whose job it was to carry Oda Nobunaga's shoes around. But apparently he was really good at it. So good that he got promoted to being one of the guys who oversaw repairing castles. And from there, it was off to the races. In 1561, Oda Nobunaga invades the Saito lands. For 3 years he's rebuffed, never quite able to take the mountain castle of Inabayama that the Saito use as their headquarters. But then Oda brings in Toyotomi Hideyoshi. Toyotomi's specialty was
XP 200 points. Clan, Oda, Samurai level 10. Specialties, Administration, Diplomacy, Warrior level 3. Strength 10, Intelligence 12, Dexterity 9, HP 15. Oh, he sucks. Ugh.
administration and diplomacy. He was a decent enough warrior, I guess, but that's not what Oda needed right now. If all it was gonna take to beat the Saito was a good general and some courage, Oda Nobunaga would have gotten the job done himself already. So instead of attacking the Saito head-on again, Toyotomi applies his special brand of skills. One by one, through bribes, appeals, and threats, Toyotomi turns almost all of Saito's retainers against them. With nearly all of their forces defecting, the Oda conquest of the Saito is a near certainty. But there's still the impregnable fortress of Inabayama to deal with. So long as it stands, the Oda will never safely hold the land. They need a jumping-off point, a place to gather their troops and store their supplies, a place to safely maintain a siege from, and a place to retreat to if things go poorly. Their last several incursions fell apart because they lacked such a place. So Oda Nobunaga orders Toyotomi Hideyoshi to build one, right at the foot of Inabayama. Now, you would think that right under the arrows of the enemy, it would be impossible to build such a fortification. But not for Toyotomi Hideyoshi. According to legend, he built the place overnight. Now, we can be pretty sure that he didn't actually build that place overnight, but getting himself a legend like that probably means he built it pretty darn fast.
Yeah.
He certainly did it fast enough that he got it built before the Saito could really muster an effective attack against it. As our story rolls forward, I think it's worth pondering why these three men with their particular talents were able to unify Japan when for 100 years all who came before them had failed. And the conquest of the Saito gives us some good hints, I think. But back to Inabayama. Once Toyotomi Hideyoshi's fortress is in place, Oda Nobunaga brings his forces up to put the Saito's castle under siege. But Hideyoshi's not done. He has one more trick up his sleeve. He's been talking to the local villagers, and he knows of a path up the back of the mountain. A path that would let him and a small handful of men slip into the castle undetected. He tells Nobunaga of his plan, and they agree. He is to pick his men and head out. In the dead of night, they scale the side of the mountain, and just before dawn, leap over its walls. They quickly rush to set fire to the storehouses and the powder magazine. The magazine explodes in this great gout of flame. The defenders inside are totally disoriented. Outside the walls, they see thousands of men advancing on them. They see the treacherous banners of those they thought to be their allies slowly creeping up the hill, and then bang, the castle erupts. Some men throw down their weapons right on the spot. Others leave the castle walls and race to the courtyard, thinking a full-scale attack is going on. In the midst of this confusion, Toyotomi Hideyoshi and his small band of men seize the gate and throw open the doors. It's not long before the castle has fallen. This is the end of the Saito. When the campaign is done, Nobunaga makes Toyotomi a lord for his services and appoints him to rule over 3 prefectures of the former Saito's land.
Nice.
With the Saito out of the way, Oda Nobunaga plans at last to march to Kyoto. But how could he justify it? What legal reason did he have? If he simply marched in as a conqueror, it might unify other clans against him. It might even weaken the support of some of his retainers. But then, in 1568, a 31-year-old man turned up on his doorstep claiming to be Ashikaga Yoshiaki, displaced from Kyoto when his brother, the shogun, was murdered. This man asks Nobunaga to cast out the pretenders to the shogunate and reinstate him as the true and rightful shogun of Japan. What an opportunity. Nobunaga, with all the reverence and humility due to his station, says that of course he'll help. He wants nothing more than justice for Yoshiaki and to see the Ashikaga shogunate restored. Of course he'll help him retake Kyoto, fingers crossed. But then Nobunaga makes it known far and wide.
Oda Nobunaga, marching to Kyoto to restore the shogun. Try to stop me and be destroyed. Posted October 1568.
He's marching to Kyoto to restore the shogun, and anybody who tries to stop him is acting against the rightful will of the shogun and will be destroyed. Not much you can say against that. And so, with a somewhat naive heir to the shogunate in tow, Oda's forces sweep west, smashing the few clans that stand in their way, and by the year's end, they're in Kyoto. And there we will leave our story for today. Everything's great, Oda has Kyoto, the, quote, rightful shogun has been restored, Hideyoshi's managing the Saito lands, and Ieyasu's holding down the fort in the east. What could possibly go wrong? Tune in a couple weeks to see what goes wrong. I don't want to spoil it, but warrior monks.
Warrior monks? And that was the Warring States Japan Sengoku Jidai, the Siege of Inabayama Castle. Extra history number 2. My voice is killing me. Yeah, this was a good episode. I don't think it was as good as number 1. Number 1 was really entertaining. This one was okay. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed. Remember to hit that like button and subscribe for more. And I will see you guys in the next video. Peace.